Prof, doctor. So you have deserted me here because the reason why you must sit here is because you must face the audience. Yeah. Yeah. Honorable Matthijs.
Thank you, Chair, and good evening, Dr. Diaz. I'm the next lot, and I'm the nicest one that you're going to have in this ad hoc committee today. Just to start off with, did you read the ad hoc terms of reference? Have you gone through the ad hoc committee, this committee that you're in now? Have you gone through our terms of reference?
Sorry, I did look at them very briefly when they came through, and as I've been explaining to people, it was not helped by the fact that I've had computer problems for the last week, and my home network has disappeared, so I'm having to work between a USB and a tethered data thing. So, but I did see them, and they came through just at the time I was grappling with that, and I read them quickly.
Okay. So I just wanted to, and this is just by the way, Dr. Mary, is that we do have our terms of reference does allow us to appoint a forensic investigator. Okay. So it is something that we can do if the need arises. So just tell us, where were you born?
I was born in England.
You were born in England, and you grew up in England as well, or?
No, I grew up here, actually.
You grew up here. Okay. Just some clarifications on your qualifications. You said you've got a Master of Social Science degree.
I've got a research master for my research, a cum laude one. I have a social work qualification. I have an honours and masters, and then I've got this doctorate from Rhodes, an honorary doctorate in for my work in human rights. Yeah,
okay, I got you. And then you often
a lot of publications.
Okay, and is that how you got the title of professor through your publications?
People call me that, and I would say I'm not a professor. I should have been, because I was just too busy teaching and doing this to finish a degree. But I mean, it's quite not difficult to finish a PhD, and I've published most of it. So I mean, people call me that, and they use this term professor often in America if you're an academic at university. But I didn't get the official professorship because I hadn't finished the PhD that would have got me the professorship when I was teaching. Yeah.
Okay. You also indicated that you often assist SAPS officers who have either been illegally arrested or persecuted, as you indicated. Where do you get the funding from?
Okay. No, I haven't had it for years. We had it for 10 years. Professor Zulu and I had it. It was a joint project. It was Natal Monitor, became KZN Monitor, a research project. And we got the funding from Norwegian People's Aid for 10 years, between 1995 and 2005, all very proper, audited in our research codes. And it was given initially for research on the continuing violence, and then Shobi Shabane happened. And the funders agreed to give us money for legal work, and that's how we funded legal representation for victims, families of victims at Shobi Shabane. So haven't had funding. I mean, if I publish stuff in academic journals, which don't get nearly enough time to do as much as I want of, I get funding in my research account that I can use for academic purposes only.
So it was the Norwegian government. Did they approach you, or did you approach them, or did you apply for funding?
Well, somebody who'd been in exile approached us, actually, and they had representatives here at the time, and when they were running around with me some of the time to see what was happening, and then they offered us small funding. But as I said, the funding, they then offered us more after Shobi Shabane, and that allowed us to help people with legal problems if they didn't have legal help. But it stopped in 2005.
Okay, and who was the person that assisted you in facilitating the funding? You said there was someone?
What was his name? Yeah, there was oh, God. It was networked. The person, Paul Zulu knew someone who'd been in exile who was very close to ANC leadership. She's deceased now. She was Doris Kasana. And she'd been fairly well up in it. And we dealt with, she knew the Norwegian People's Aid people. That's how it happened. And they got interested in what was happening during the years of the violence. And I took them around, actually. They had the shock of their lives one day when we got chased out of a shack area that was later on going to be the site of another massacre. We didn't know what all the soldiers would do anyway, and they sort of got the message that maybe there's something going on here. And stuff. Yeah.
Okay. So you've also indicated to us that you're an expert on policing and policy and the Constitution, particularly around policing. When you send information that you receive, how do you sift through that information to determine that this is the appropriate person or institution or agency to send whatever information that you get to? And do you think that you use the right information forms? For example, when you lodge a complaint to the public protector, they have a process on how and forms that need to be filled out. So just sending an email sometimes does not necessarily amount to it being a formal complaint because there's processes in place.
In the first years of democracy, I would go to the police and they would respond. And that just fell away gradually in the 2000s, and I'm lucky if I get any responses at all. I mean, there's some police that I've at stations that have been helpful. I will sometimes phone about patrols. Generally speaking, written answers are few and far between. You know, they used to be much more. I mean, recently I just passed on the complaint. I wasn't able to evaluate. And it did get investigated, actually. And I was worried because it involved a supposed unregistered prison. So that I do it in different ways. We had no success whatsoever with either the Human Rights Commission or the Public Protector in KZN. But we got the investigation into Glebeland's hostel by just before, I think it was the last report that Advocate Madonsela wrote, because a lawyer with whom I work, who used to be the head of the law department, knew her well. And having the local office having turned us down, she did the investigation. So we've used different channels. And I've often sent stuff on to Parliament. I mean, at one stage, when I did complain to Parliament about torture and the fact IPID was doing nothing about it, it was, Advocate Birkman was the chair, and they followed up. They got an undertaking from the national office. They'd investigate. It was about our province. The guy came down here, he needed to see me urgently. I went out my way and he said, look, I quite agree, everything I've followed up looks right. And he got called back the very next day to head office because McBride had just arrived back and I think he wanted a meeting and that was the end of it. So we have had follow-ups in the course of the years to ask answers from, say, in that APID. So different. Yeah.
So why do you think the institutions or agencies that or SAPS in particular, where you normally had a relationship with and they would respond, why do you think they stopped responding to you?
Oh, because everything changed in 2009. I mean, clearly became the National Commissioner, and we had a return to military policing, which should never have happened. I mean, the ANC had taken a very firm decision in 1995 to demilitarize policing. And it was brought back immediately because clearly likes running around in a uniform. And I mean, then it became shoot to kill. And not only that, but I mean, and I'm quoting media reports now, oh gosh, there's this man who was a bodyguard, now he's a brigadier, that we were getting all this, and I was getting reports from people about nepotism. So it started to go down, less and less responses. And I mean, we saw that with Glebelands, for example. There was a crisis there. People were dying all the time. And I was writing to the provincial commissioner then, the woman that was suspended for the World Cup tender, which was signed off by Clearly. He signed it off. He should have been charged, not her. Okay. And she never ever, she once said, oh, let's have a meeting, and then she withdrew them. She never replied to anything.
So you pretty much saying that it had more to do with who came into leadership. You don't think it had anything to do with the quality of the information that you were sending or asking about?
No, I don't think so, because I was doing what I've been doing since, I mean, in 1990, there was this big effort from people that we knew were not very nice security police, but oh, isn't all this nice, you know, that we're having this change, and I knew they were lying, because at one stage before 1994, I think it was the Vryburg actually, there was a real theory that the police were far to the right of de Klerk and didn't like what he'd done. And there was a real, at one stage, there was even talk about, well, if there's a coup, it's not going to come from the army, who are largely behind de Klerk, but from the police. So there were those tensions, and I think they went out of their way to show, but nothing much changed, actually.
Okay. So I'm curious about how you did not know that you had an option of lodging a complaint with IDEC, given your vast experience.
No, IDEC, you mean?
Yeah, IDEC.
Oh, right. Well, I guess I guess that it didn't, I hadn't thought of looking. I'll be honest with you that I'd tried over and over again to get action from IPID and got absolutely nowhere with anything, even with cases where we produced the medical evidence about the severity of the torture. I mean, so I was kind of, there was IPID, there was, I could have gone to the civilian secretariat, but I've never ever seen much. I've seen a lot of bad laws coming out of that have had to be sent back from the civilian secretariat. One of the things I put in parting was this, in suggestions forward to think about basically is that there's far too much power in the hands of one person, of the Minister of Police, who, regardless of who the Minister of Police is, because it's the Minister of Police who decides on the head of I mean, now there's a bit of window dressing about, well, let's call for nominations in the new legislation. The Minister of Police is the one who appoints the head of IPID ultimately. Appoints the civilian secretariat, which is supposed to give it, and they've got civilian secretariats in the different provinces. Because I once said to one of the Director Generals, well, what are they doing if you want us to? Oh, he said, nobody knows what they do. I thought, what an admission. Anyway, we've got the civilian secretariat, and of course we've got, it's IPID, civilian secretariat, Minister of Police, of course. I mean, National Commission, no, well, that's the President. But there's got to be a recommendation somewhere. I think that there's a need, there's too much power over oversight bodies of the police with one pair of hands in the form of the minister. I think there should be more of a parliamentary role, quite honestly, in who becomes heading those particular institutions of IPID and the civilian secretariat.
Okay. So in terms of the IDEC, and you're not, so you weren't quite familiar with IDEC?
No, I mean, I thought that they had a more specialized agenda, quite honestly. I was thinking that they were into specific types of corruption. I mean, it gets quite confusing because we've got the SIU running around and we've got all sorts of people who are supposed to be doing it. But, I mean, I'm glad of that suggestion.
Okay. Have you read the terms of reference for the PKTT?
The PKTT. Now, where are all I know is whatever was published about it. Yeah. And it was political killings in KZN. Yeah.
So you haven't, or you didn't, the IMC, have you read their terms of reference?
Sorry,
The IMC, which was the interim ministerial.
I've never seen a report by them. No, I mean, I don't know whether they ever report it to Parliament. I mean, that's something that I could.
Have you tried to access any of those documents?
Well, I looked to see what I looked at the time I wrote that conversation article. I looked to see whatever I could find about their operations. And all I could get, it was a decision and it was media reports, basically. Okay.
So when did you conclude that the PKTT was a rogue and unnecessary testing?
Well, it was starting to show that way a couple of years. They'd had 2 years when I wrote that conversation article. They'd withdrawn charges in 3 high-profile cases. It was impossible. It was impossible to assess. You see, someone asked me about how many convictions were there, and I mean, I've scoured media reports. I know that there are cases in court from people that tell me. I've scoured media reports, and there's not many high-profile cases. The high-profile cases get reported in the media, and they used to be even better reported 5 years ago. So you do pick up, and I know, with people, I know more about the killings in the areas. I've never, ever heard about anyone having been convicted. Some of the cases that have happened recently, a couple of them, they said, you see, we're getting these convictions. They've been there for years. They've just dragged on. And I think in at least one of those cases, the work had been done by the provincial team. It was going back that far. In another case, it seemed that, and this may be a problem in other cases, that the man who pulled the trigger had been convicted, but he was telling everybody who would listen to him, apparently, but hang on, I told them who sent me, and they weren't interested in investigating. But again, this is what I want. These were the things that I was hoping that some investigation into them would look at. I mean, I'm talking about, forensic investigators looking at records and things like that.
So about 2 years ago, you'd say that you held the opinion that the PKTT was a rogue.
Yeah, I mean, 3 or 4 years, what was it now? 4 years ago, over that. There was very little to show for it at that stage. Yeah.
And largely your assessment on that and your conclusion on that, is it safe to say that it was based primarily on media reports and then the few people that you have engaged with?
No, it was more than that. I knew some of those cases. I knew the investigators.
So let's say at the moment there's 121 dockets.
Yeah.
So out of that, 1%, 2% on the cases, because you also don't know how many actual cases they have investigated over the years.
I can't make any assessment without a knowledge of what dockets they took. I mean, they took one docket I'm aware of. It's fairly high profile, but it's got nothing to do with politics, as far as I know, and they made a copy of it. And they've taken other dockets that, as I said, are fraud or corruption. But, I mean, the early cases, I was able to make assessments in some of those cases because I knew the context. I knew what was happening in the area. I would hear from people if there had been arrests. So, but, I mean, basically, there was no evidence. There was nothing much to go on.
Okay.
In terms of information to assess. And that was even up till the last one, which is in 2022, I think.
Okay. So without giving us the details of the cases, more or less how many of the PKTT cases did you have personal knowledge, or you engaged some of the victims personally?
Look, I can't tell you that now. I've only now pulled all those lists up because I didn't know about, the fact that I would come here, put it that way, after the establishment. And and I dare not mention the name, that the commission that shall remain nameless was established, they reached out to me. They wanted information, and then when it was starting, I was told, look, we're never going to get to the task team part until at least the end of this year. I'd sent them the sort of stuff I've sent to you, And I then thought, right, I better go through all those lists. I better update them. Somebody wanted an updated one, I think, because I had the information, I just hadn't processed it. So that's what I was doing when you asked me to come here. And I mean, I put the lists aside. It's a very tedious business because the information is so scarce.
Okay, so we have reports since we had the press conference and the ad hoc committee has convened on reports on how many cases there have been, etc. So you haven't accessed any of that information?
They haven't given me a breakdown. The information I'm looking at...
Yeah, we have that. So
is what... the information I'm looking at is Minister Mkhulu's affidavit, where they are reporting to him, and that's got case numbers. I'm able to in some cases, I'm able to link them because it's the area. It's the case is always opened at stations that where they happened, and because my lists have got the names of people and where they were killed, I'm able to make rough assessments of whether that's a particular case. But I don't have the breakdown of all the dockets they took. And
yeah, we have that.
Do you have that? Well, I mean, I can work on that, but I mean, that will, as I said, it'll take a while. I've got to
have a more informed, it would provide a more informed characterization of the PKTT. So let's talk a little bit about destabilizing. It's not a foreign concept that, countries can be destabilized. And the justice system can also be a deliberate, program by forces that don't want to see South Africa advancing or making any developments. And one of the key methods of destabilizing a country, is creating factions within departments and entities, spreading misinformation and disinformation, sort of what we see with AfriForum and what we see with the farm killings. So how do you approach when you get information before you go and you do media briefings and you write reports and you get that? How do you process your information outside of, doing your one-on-one interviews with people to ensure that you're not part of a team, consciously or unconsciously, that's part of destabilizing our justice system?
No, I actually understand the dynamics quite well. I mean, there's all sorts of ways of approaching this. Let's put it academically. I could say to you, what's coming out points to the fact that team was set up to cover up the politicians. That's my hypothesis. Let's say hypothesis. You have to prove me wrong. So, I've got various theories in my mind. Now, KZN is volatile. We are the heart of probably the most powerful long-distance taxi. There's a lot of ones. I mean, what happens in KwaZulu-Natal is the hitmen linked to the taxis will commit a hit and the taxis will get them off to the hostels in Gauteng. And you tell me why we've still got hostels 30 years after democracy.
So, I'm going to cut you.
But that's the way it operates. And of course, we're harbour city.
So I'm just asking, so do you feel that you are confident enough to know that you're not part?
Yes, I do indeed. I do indeed. I've been in this a long time.
And that your activism is not being weaponized.
Well, anything can be weaponized, especially in the social media age.
Because when you make your decisions on whether you're going to go public and share information, that you are conscious that I'm not being weaponized to destabilize.
No, I am.
We have an entire minister who made a decision, and largely his decision, even his statement, he came here and it was based on a report that you gave to him. And whether it was intentional or not, I'm just saying. So that had a ripple effect across the entire country. We actually have a commission now and an ad hoc committee based on a report or a complaint that you have submitted. So I'm asking that at no point have you been approached to be part of a grouping or or anything to be part of something to push a particular agenda?
I want to clarify that I work completely independently. I mean, I still collaborate with Prof. Zulu, but he's teaching postgrad students and writing. We share information, but we don't work formally together. He's not doing violent stuff anymore, but we are very close friends. I am certainly not part of, there have been attempts to say I'm working for some foreign, I've heard all sorts of weird things. I'm a very independent person. I make my own decisions.
No, I understand that. That's why it could be unconsciously. And Chair,
you are on my discretionary 5 minutes.
Oh, thank you, because I'm pretty much done. And this is
at 7:15. Your time will expire.
Okay, actually was concluding now. I just think, Chair, as an ad hoc committee, because these PKTT reports is going to keep cropping up, we're also going to keep getting witnesses to say that this is not accurate, etc. And as a committee, I think we should make a decision or consider rather that we ask the Auditor General to audit the PKTT reports over the years. And I think it's going to be because so far we've got reports from the police themselves, and then we have witnesses come and say the information is incorrect, etc. And the most positive thing we can do is have an independent body who is mandated to do that. The AG auditors, SAPs, and the crime stats as well. So we can ask also for them to do an audit on this. And I think that will help us as we move forward to deal with information.
I would welcome that. That's what the sort of thing I was looking for, basically.
Okay,
yeah.
I'm done. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable Matthews. So thank you so much, Dr. De Haas. May we please move to Honorable Sols, but before we do that, let me take Honorable Nomvalo.
No, thanks, Chair. Doc, when you were responding to Honorable Matthews about the investigative methodology that you espoused to test the credibility of information that you receive. Well, I didn't hear precisely your response, but what I captured in your response is that you said before the arrival or before the change of leadership, it was easy for you to test information, but it became difficult, and I think you were specific that it became worse after the arrival of General Pegicele. May you give some brief clarity on that?
Yeah, what I was saying is that I was getting less and less feedback from the police. You know, I've been writing, and I believe in putting things on record. And if I write and I say, well, can you give me a progress report on this case you're investigating, for example, people are asking me to follow it up for you. That type of thing was decreasing. I was getting very few written responses. I mean, I'd carried on phoning police stations to get patrols and trying to get answers about cases. But what was happening after clearly there were two things. First of all, well, there were more, because he remilitarized the police, and you've got this military ethos in the police. And pardon me, but I tend to, okay, no, I will leave that about the military, but never mind. That was one thing, but it was just getting less accountable from my point of view in getting responses and about what was happening. Look, it did go on. I mean, for example, the Honourable Chair of the Police Portfolio mentioned the Boyson, the organised crime. Now, this is what I did when people came to me and said, these people are seen running around with the rival taxi faction. So I write and I ask about it. I don't get much response, but I did get a bit of a response. Not from, it was Olivier. I mean, I have something about a background of Olivier I won't go into here, but he was acting in charge. I think Boyson was the overall command. That's what I said.
Okay. Yeah.
The point is, though, that the point is that he was in charge of the organized crime, and I did.
Doc.
Yeah.
No, I don't mean to be rude, man. I think I get the gist of your response. I have limited time. I still want.
Okay. Oh, sorry. Carry on.
Yes, I still want to pursue this. Now, should I understand you to say that the investigative methodology that you used to apply, you are not applying currently because of the circumstances?
Depends what you mean by it. I mean, I'm getting as much information as I can for anyone who knows anything, but I'm not getting it from the police most of the time. So what can I do?
Remember, Doc, the original question by Honorable Matheus was, how do you test the credibility of information after receiving it? That was the original question. And your reaction was that it was easy for you before the change happened in leadership. It became worse after General Pegitele came in. Now, the question is, does that mean you are no longer using the investigative methodology that you used to use under the then leadership before the arrival of General Pegitele? And if you can be very specific and brief so that the chair doesn't whip me.
Yeah, I'll be very brief. No, I haven't changed. I'm still trying to get information from the police, and I often don't get it. That's what's changed. That's all that's changed. I do my best to get, I mean, right now, police are refusing to open a case that a man wants opened against, he's under threat. It's illegal. What do I do? So I go to General...
Apologies, Doc. Really, I don't think you understand my question.
It's the same.
You are talking about getting an information. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about testing the credibility of the information that you have received. Those are two separate things. Yeah. Getting an information and testing it after receiving it are two separate things. The question was, how do you test the credibility of information that you receive from informants after receiving it?
I do my best. I still use the same methodology. I do my best. What I was doing before, asking answers from the police that don't give it to me, that's what's changed.
So if you receive an information from the police, then you ask for answers from them. From the same police. Is that the methodology that we should understand you to be using?
Look, what I'm saying is a lot of the information I supplied in those case studies were not the ones that are in the factual letters, the letters I sent to Parliament and the Minister. That information came not from the police, it came the people, apart from a few investigators who might have been involved at the cases, right. But that's first-hand information from people who are caught up in these investigations, who are ordinary people in communities. But this applies to everybody, not just the PKTT.
Yeah, no, the chair.
Also trying to do it for any victims.
The chair has indicated that I've actually run out of time. Lastly, did you subject this information to the same process, the one that is contained in your statement? That is my last question.
Well, if the same process is trying to get information, no, I didn't go to the police because I was not... I mean, I didn't go to police management because I wasn't even getting replies from Nkwanazi when I was sending him letters, let alone Masemola. So I didn't bother because these were the police under their command. So what did I do? But now I know I can try the independent directorate as well, perhaps.
Thank you so much. Honorable Sols, it's 20 minutes past 7 now. Please be done by 20 minutes to 8. In the event you are not done, the chair will exercise his discretionary 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening once again, Dr. Haas. On this side. Good evening.
Oh, right, okay. Oh, yes, I see now. Okay, yeah.
If you don't see me, just follow the teeth.
No, I was vaguely thinking of something else. Sorry, I was, but I mean, sorry. I knew you were there somewhere, and I couldn't remember. But now you mention it, I see you. Yes. Okay.
Dr. Haas, let me start off by being very frank with you.
Please.
The methodology, though your methodology comes with very good intentions, you must understand for the purposes of the committee, the methodology of stating things that you have obviously researched, heard from certain people, but if you haven't verified them and you put it to us, those are things that we cannot use for our investigation. So what I'm going to seek to do as I studied what you submitted to us, I'm only going to zoom into things that I think that you can authoritatively answer to based on experience and based on what you state here. Okay? So we're going to do it that way. So let's start off by dealing with your experience. You speak about in the 1980s, you joined PFP. What was so important about what the party stood for during apartheid? PFP.
Do you want me to answer that first?
Yes. What does it stand for?
Okay. I joined the party.
What does the party stand for?
It was providing the only opposition there was to the Nationalist Party, mainly through Helen Suzman, and we could then give her reports on abuses by the police that she would raise in Parliament. I'm not much interested in politics, but it was a strategic thing to do, especially as the regional director of the Progressive Federal Party. Actually was the director, he had come up and he'd reached out to townships and he was working there. So we were able to work together and he was working with lawyers and that's how this formed. Basically, it wasn't about the politics. It was about getting some sort of opposition to the Nationalist Party.
And you also exposed the wrongdoings of apartheid police at the time.
Absolutely. We took affidavits about the abuses and Ainsley was very involved in working with the lawyers who were, there was a lot of illegal detentions then, for example. We needed lawyers, so he was doing that. So it was a kind of increasing combination of contributions, and the Black Sash were also doing some things too.
And then also you worked closely with the Goldstone Commission. Who set up the commission?
President de Klerk set up the commission, but I know you're going to say apartheid judge, but some of the judges were okay. There were some that were very good.
Dr. Haas, Solda, please do not assume what I'm...
Oh, somebody said it was an apartheid judge.
Just follow my line of questioning. Okay. Very good. All right. So... de Klerk did so. You are not very positive about police behavior even during that time. Tell us a little bit about that.
With the time in the early days of the Goldstone Commission, do you mean?
Yes.
Well, I mean, I think that's on record. The police were coming and saying, right, and I was kind of quite amiable towards them. They were welcome, and I just these were kind of white security police, put it that way, mainly. But the police for example, the stability units that were in the townships had a very negative image in people's mind because they went in and disarmed anything, even a few homemade meth before the killers came. And so there were negative stereotypes about the police. And of course, trust feed happened. And in the trust feed case, the police were shown to be working with the people that went in at the massacre. I mean, that was all. So when I say that, I'm saying that, they didn't necessarily change their behavior. Some tried to show that they had.
You also mentioned something about the complicity with warlords from the police at the time, and you also stood up against that.
Yeah, indeed I did, because this was later. This came out in trials when this was after the violence carried on for a few years after 94 in specific areas. And, for example, if you take these cases that Vilagazi was investigating up in the Mtubatuba area and Mandini area, we had affidavits from people about how the police were abusing them, and they were also getting abused by the by the warlords, under threat. But the very concrete evidence came out in a court case up at Mtubatuba, where the evidence was that, and there was a conviction, for the warlords, one had been taken out, I think. Some of them die when things are getting a bit hot. And the evidence was there, though, that the local police, that we had actually, the lawyer for John Wills, the lawyer for the ANC, had lodged a complaint about the local public order policing, because they were also abusing people. And they apparently, according to the evidence at the trial, they'd gone in and shone the lights on the houses that had to be attacked. So this was the sort of reports we were getting then. And there were convictions in these cases I'm talking about.
So would I be correct then in saying that based on your history right from the 1980s, even during apartheid, fighting against wrongs by police, whether it be apartheid police post-apartheid, this drive that you have, it's not something that you just miraculously gained after 1994. You fought this very same thing that you're doing now since the 1980s, in apartheid and after apartheid.
Yes.
Your issue is wherever there is police corruption, wherever there is workings of police that is negatively affecting the poor, you stand up against it.
Yes, I do. I haven't stopped since. That's what's bugging me. I don't really want to do it, I can tell you, but I haven't stopped because people keep asking me.
And this is what you have tabled to us. So I'm taking this from your statements here. So you have experience in that. Which other commission were you part of? That there was one more. Was it Morana or?
Well, it was the Morani. It was my information about hit squad killings up in the North Coast in what is now isikaleni. I was often up in isikaleni. But my information about the hitmen who were killing people all over the place was given to the Goldstone Commission, who ensured that a credible team of detectives investigated, and there was a conviction. That was Romeo Mbambo and two others that also named, and that was my information that I passed on, that was followed up by the police, and there were convictions.
All right. So you can then, based on that background, your opinion can be considered authoritative and credible around my next question. You've just proven that. My next question would be, in the formulation of a political task team or a task team, is it important or imperative for it to be headed by a senior detective, and why?
It's always been the case because detectives have to inspect dockets and evaluate the evidence that the people under them have actually accumulated. And if you're not a detective, you can't do that. And the further control is exercised by the prosecutors, who then look at the dockets and say, well, this is good, or you need to go back and get more evidence. I mean, ever since I've worked with the police, this is the way it's been, put it that way. I mean, it makes sense. How can you, if you're not a detective, if you're not experienced detective, you only get to be senior in most cases, although there's a bit of a not quite so simple now, but normally you get to be more senior when you've got experience, and you're in a position to do that because somebody has got to keep checking on the quality of the evidence, even before it goes for the prosecutor.
You raised that element as a concern with the current PKTT. What is your concern around that?
There's no senior people that are, there was supposed to be. As I said to you, the national deputy for detectives was in overall charge. He had to have the reports, but there was a brigadier who was the local provincial person, and that brigadier very soon left. And people say, well, no. And they all say the same thing. No, he couldn't take it anymore because he was getting instructions and he was in charge of investigations. He was the one that did the dockets then, I was told. So, and then it seemed, I have not come across another name that's there all the time. If I would say to someone, well, who's doing the dockets now? Well, there was a captain who came in and there's a colonel. That's, why? Why isn't there a fixed structure?
So who is running the PKTT now? And what is your information on whether or not he qualifies as a senior detective?
Well, I'm told, and this I don't know at this stage, I'm told that some of the people that were in the task team have gone back to their bases that they came from. One might have been a stock theft sergeant somewhere, or, it could have been, not all the people in the task team were detectives. But I'm not sure those that were carrying dockets that are in court, I'm not sure who is now overseeing them. In theory, it should be a senior person in the province.
All right. So
I don't know, though. I can't answer that because I do know that in the case of the police, there isn't one. There's just the prosecutor.
So what we're going to do is, like I told you at the beginning, because you don't know, we're not going to accept that as authoritative. You said earlier that the current coordinator of the PKTT, General Kumalo, is not a senior detective.
He's not a detective. He's never been, from what everybody tells me. He's been operational response.
Now, once again, are you saying that based on you are sure, or are you saying that based on what you've heard?
What I've heard is consistent across various reports independently. That he was definitely operational response for most of the time. There's no record anyone has of his having been a detective. And I'm talking now not just people in crime intelligence, but people who were in the police for a long time, who know, like a senior retired person, who had never come across him as a detective.
So your submission is confidently that currently the PKTT is not coordinated by a senior detective?
As far as I know, because I don't know whether or not those members, you see, that's the other foggy thing in all this, because some of those cases are still in court. And the investigating officers were allowed to keep those dockets that are still in court. Now, when they've gone to court, the investigation is over because it's in the hands of the prosecutor. So I don't know whether, I mean, once the investigation gets to a prosecution.
So what we'll do is, we will take your response to be you don't know, but we will keep for the record that we must ask and interrogate the question whether or not the current PKTT coordinator is a senior detective or has detective experience, okay? So we'll take it like that. Let's jump into your Volume 1, Annexure Bundle Volume 1. I want us to go to the letter, page 23 to 26, MDH 5.1. There's a section in section 4. This is a letter you wrote to General Mkhwanazi. So I want us to spend my remaining time on this. So you must be very concise here, Doctor.
This was in 2021. Is that the letter you're referring to?
That's correct.
I think it's the only one that's in here.
Yes. So let's go to paragraph 4. The reason why I'm zooming into that is because, once again, I'm going to test the authority of your evidence, or what you are supplying as backup of your position, because you use the words you can confirm. So if you can confirm, then that means it is something that we can use. So I ignored everything else where I see that you can't really say for sure. So we're just going to zoom into where you specifically state to us you can confirm. So let's go to paragraph 4, number 4.
Sorry, could you just tell me exactly which bundle it's in here? I'm getting myself muddled, as I always do. Which page is it in the? Is it in the?
It's MD, item MDH5,
okay.
1, volume 1 of Annexure Bundle.
Okay.
Annexure Bundle, volume 1. Are you there?
Okay. Yeah. Okay, I've got it now. The
number 4.
Commission SAPS, 11th of October. Yep.
You wrote this letter to General Mkhwanazi.
Yeah.
Did you get a response?
No.
Let's read 4. Would you please? I will stop you where I would want to question you. So let's read yesterday afternoon from there.
Okay, yes. General Khumalo, yes. Members of General Khumalo's team, seizure of the phones, and I think...
Point number 4, it starts with yesterday afternoon.
Yes.
Sunday, 10th October.
Yeah.
Continue.
Okay.
It's your statement.
I received a report.
Yes.
Right. And he'd been arrested at Loop Street. I wasn't able to confirm, after speaking briefly to him, that members of the ministerial task team...
See what you're saying there. You said...
This was...
Yesterday afternoon, Sunday, 10th October, I received a report that Zulu had been arrested and detained at Loop Street. I was subsequently able to confirm, after speaking briefly with him, that members of the ministerial task team had arrested him. Now, you are saying that the PKTT has arrested him, and you are able to confirm that, right?
That's what he told me, and it was I think, from the people he described, and that was when I first heard about National Intervention Unit.
Are you able to confirm, are you sure or not? That
sure as one can be about it, because, I mean, Tabiso Zulu is very intelligent, and he's been doing his own research on these matters for many years.
You see, Doctor, you must not say as sure as one can be. You must say, I'm sure, as one can be, that this was the PKTT who has arrested this gentleman, because what you are claiming is that the PKTT, it was basically overreach. So if you are sure, you must say you are sure. I'm just using it because you use the words "you can confirm." Okay?
Yeah, I spoke to Kumalo, I think, yeah.
All right. Let's continue. The name of a certain Ramadi was mentioned. Conversation, the arresting officers had seized 2 cell phones in the possession and told him that they were going to download the content of the telephones. These telephones should have been stored securely at Loop Street Station, but a duty officer confirmed that the arresting officers had made an entry that they had removed the phones, but no contact details were available for me to follow up. I did speak to General Komalo about this, and I also sent him messages complaining about it. How did you speak to General Komalo about this?
On the telephone.
So you have telephonic records that you have spoken to him about this?
Yes, yes. I mean, I don't know if I've got the records anymore. It's 4 years ago, but I did speak to him.
Okay. That you can say for sure.
Yes, yes.
I requested that he send his email address so that he could follow up via email, but since you have not received anything back.
No, I never received anything. I think the phones were reported. There was a report, though, to the Inspector General of Intelligence by Tabiso himself.
Okay, so what you are telling us by this statement, because this is the only thing closest to what I can use as something with authority. With this, are you saying that the PKTT has arrested people, taken possession of phones on cases that was not falling within their ambit? Is that what you're saying to us?
In this case, it wasn't, because they'd arrested him. I can't remember what they arrested him for, because he had opened a case of assault, and they claimed they were coming to investigate it. Then they arrested him on another charge, and that's in further correspondence I don't have with me, but it wasn't political that they were dealing with.
All right. Dr. Haas, you also said that earlier you wanted to shed light on the fact that at one political killing, provincial police did a good job with this particular political killing, and then when the PKTT started, they took over and then withdrew the charges of that.
Not immediately.
Talk about that to us.
Okay. What happened is, and if you look, I think I made a copy of quite an interesting media report where clearly is going into figures and things like that. And what had what had happened, he gives the figures for the people that had been taken that were handing dockets. He said so many members and so many had been transferred from their units because we took the dockets, right? So that's how that happened. And then initially, in the first, and I haven't yet pieced together the whole timeline, because initially there was supervision of the task team. There was a brigadier in Ngwenya who was there, and he looked at the dockets. This would have been, I think he was still there. I think it would have probably been around 2020. Maybe he was, but I'm not sure. He wasn't there for more than a year or two. And one would need to say, well, but it wasn't the immediate takeover, but it was soon after the takeover that those charges, by 2020, the charges had been withdrawn in those 3 cases that had been handled by provincial people against the politicians. Because in the Magaka case, they didn't withdraw the charges against any of the hitmen. They didn't give them bail either, but then a new prosecutor came in and he gave them bail, apart from the one that was Ngwengwe, because I think he had another conviction.
But you are saying that the PKTT withdrew those cases.
Yeah. Yeah, they did, because they were in charge then.
Thank you, Chair.
Are you done, Honorable Source?
Yes, sir.
We don't want even a minute, a discretionary minute from the chair.
If I would take a minute,
Okay.
then it is something that I would want to say to Dr.
Yeah.
Haas,
You are allowed.
frankly. Dr. Haas, there is a scripture that says, knowledge puffs up. Knowledge puffs up. And oftentimes, I want to share with you honestly, I've never understood that scripture until today. Your vast knowledge and experience, in your wisdom, strike a balance when how you come across to people based on that. I can suspect when I look at the way you speak in your writing, even if you use the words please and I request, but you said to General Mkwanazi, please also either ascertain from General Kumalo or request the email or request he emails me directly whether the police who arrested Tabiso Zulu had obtained a warrant. It's like you are speaking to a provincial police commissioner who has people under his command. And when you, from outside, almost speaks as if you are commanding him rather than you are seeking to join hands with him, you come across as puffed up. And mine to you would be very humbly, respectfully, caution against what Scripture tells us. Don't allow your knowledge to puff up. Thank you.
Well, I didn't know I was rude to General Mkwanazi. Sorry.
You must start by saying hallelujah before you respond.
Oh, sorry.
Lawyer?
Okay, right. Well, thank you. I mean, I appreciate, even if you're, I've dealt with this sort of criticism for 40. Look, it's like déjà vu for me. People were saying this about me in the 80s. So, okay, right. But I do try to be polite when I communicate with the police. But look, they are civil servants. They should be accountable to the public. It's as simple as that. You shouldn't have to beg them to be accountable. That's what they should be doing, and most of them aren't. So, and I also learned years ago, and this sounds bad, I try to be polite when I communicate with them, but sometimes I see that they're just basically bullies, and the only way you deal with bullies is to bully them back. And then they get the message. So, but it depends. I'm not saying I do this universally with police, but you actually have to stand up to them and say, but these are people's rights. Can you just, inform them or help them or whatever they need to do?
But maybe you should consider that's perhaps the reason why you didn't get a response.
Okay.
I'm joking
Thank you.
about it, actually.
Thank you so much, Honorable Sols. Follow up, Honorable Matthias.
Thank you, Chair. Dr. Diaz, in your opinion, was it a sound decision for the Minister of Police to largely disband the political killings task team based on the complaint that you sent and with your evidence that you've just given us that was largely based on media reports because you didn't have access to verifying information? And then, of course, you did mention that you had direct contact. You can't tell us exactly with how many of the people who were, or the cases or dockets that were part of it. Do you think it was sound decision for the minister to make that without even engaging you or even engaging the complaint that you sent? Because you and him both said you did not talk to each other. So we had a minister whose entire statement, okay, not entire, but largely his statement was based on your complaint.
Look,
so was it sound? I think you must just tell us whether you think it was sound, given what you sent to him, Doc. Was it a sound decision for a minister of police to use your complaint without investigating or engaging you to disband the political killings task team?
I wasn't the only one who made a complaint. When I skimmed
But that's
through,
not the question.
I mean, so we can't say he based it solely on.
No, he did. That's what he told us. He gave us your whole complaint.
Oh, did he? Well, I didn't. Yeah.
So,
but I mean,
so I'm
other
asking, do you
people
think
had
it was?
complained.
No, I'm not asking about that.
Yeah.
I'm saying he didn't even call you to ask you anything about that. No one in his office tried to investigate the complaint that you made. Do you think it was sound?
I don't know if anybody did.
It wasn't. No, but I'm telling. That's what he said. So I'm asking for your opinion. Given your experience in the police, would you expect a minister of police to make a decision largely based on a complaint that you made without even engaging you or investigating what you've reported to him?
I referred to a brief discussion with Advocate Pacoli, who wanted to just verify what I was saying. For all I know, he went and did his. I have no idea, because I didn't speak to him about what happened and how, the minister got to that decision. So I don't know if anybody else did anything about it. But when I read that affidavit briefly of the ministers, it was like he'd been getting reports and wondering if it, including about finances and it could just be the last. It could be.
I'm telling you, but his statement said that, and he gave us your complaint.
Yeah.
And you were one of. So leave the other complaints aside. I'm asking, was it a sound decision based on your research and your experience in the space for the minister without investigating what you have said to base the disbandment of the PKTT?
Well, it's a difficult question to ask simply because I don't know what else he may have said. Well, my letter was a catalyst, but I can't say that he did that. I mean, I think it was a good decision to disband the team. I think it was overdue.
Yeah, that wasn't the question, but okay.
I mean, as a minister, I'm not really in a position to evaluate it because I've never, ever spoken to him about all the reasons. Maybe he should have called me and asked about it. I don't know. But I've never spoken to him about, well, what else led you to disband it? We've never had that conversation. So how can I make a proper assessment, I think? But I was happy to see the team was disbanded. I would have been quite happy with an inquiry into it even. Like we're having now. Yeah.
Honorable Matthijs, are you satisfied? You say it was a good decision to disband.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. Honorable Nwala.
Thank you very much, Chair. Doc, it looks like your evidence is based largely on one aspect of the PKTT, which is SAPS.
Which is?
SAPS. Are you aware that the PKTT is a multidisciplinary team?
Yeah. Well, yes, but I haven't seen evidence of it. I've seen the intelligence aspect, and that's all I know.
You haven't seen evidence of what?
Oh, of course, the multidisciplinary, the justice is in it too. Yeah. But I've never seen public pronouncements. I've only seen a minister saying that we've got this team, and I know that they've spoken, I think, in the Madlanga Commission about how they're working with justice people, and that came in when one of them arrived. They weren't initially. There were no dedicated prosecutors.
Are you aware that the PKTT comprised SAPS, NPA? crime intelligence, state security, correctional services.
Yes, they have different roles. Crime intelligence.
Are you aware that it was comprised by a multidisciplinary team?
According to the announcement, I don't know how it worked in practice, apart from the fact that they did get a dedicated prosecutor when Graba moved here. And the point is, intelligence is part and parcel of all investigations. You don't have to be a multidisciplinary team to access information from crime intelligence. It's a separate component.
Okay.
So it's not new to access intelligence for it, but you should at least note your things to different prosecutors.
Lastly, Doc, you wrote a letter to the minister that he must instruct the National Commissioner to dissolve the PKTT. Two big issues. Is it a concession that the person who bears power to dissolve the task team was the National Commissioner, not the minister?
No. The National Commissioner did not set up a task team. It was set up
you say
at the
in your letter,
level.
Did you not say in your letter the minister must instruct the National Commissioner to immediately dissolve the task team?
Yes.
Isn't that a confession or a concession that the person who's supposed to dissolve is the National Commissioner?
Yes.
If you're saying, so we are saying the National Commissioner was supposed to dissolve.
But he had
not
to have
the
ministerial approval.
Beg your pardon?
He had to have ministerial approval. It was set up.
It's fine. It's fine.
No, and look, the role of a minister.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, may you take a deep breath, all of you.
I'm tired of going over
Yeah.
this.
Don't breathe heavily on each other's neck. You can imagine a younger South African and a senior citizen in a comrades marathon trying to run the race at the same pace. It's not possible. There must be different categories of entries. You know? Yeah. Let's continue. Honorable Ngola.
Thanks, Chair. I'm saying, is it your concession that the person who was supposed to dissolve the political killing system is the National Commissioner, not the minister? Because you wrote a letter to the minister and said he must instruct the National Commissioner to dissolve.
This minister was not acting in the same operational manner as the former minister. And I know that because I've been told, for example, by another very good detective.
Doctor, let's go straight to the...
All right. Okay.
Do you concede that the police commissioner was the relevant person to dissolve the PKTT?
If he was instructed by the national minister to do it. The national minister works through the national commissioner.
So you are saying that the minister makes a policy pronouncement and the commissioner implements that policy?
Yes.
So your interpretation is that the decision is like a policy pronouncement?
Yes, it is. We don't need this anymore. I mean, he's entitled to do that, I think, especially if it's costing a fortune.
When you say we don't need this anymore, who else do you include in that way?
Well, no. It's sorry. That was just a throwaway comment. I'm just guessing on. He came to the conclusion because I see that he is looking at finances as well.
No, it's fine.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm taking the Chief Whip, Honorable Nomvana.